Hey, you. Did you watch the GUN video? Guess what? We're doing it again. Zenless is back. Wake up! Zenless is back. Version 1.1 will be debuting Qingyi. So let's talk about her. There's a lot of ground to cover with this character. I'm gonna do my best to make it as understandable as possible without brushing over her mechanics, because they're very complicated. It's completely unrelated. Feedback for Hoyo and the way that they present their characters in the live streams and in these redo journals, they're missing so much information. It's genuinely a problem. Also, some of the information here is incorrect. When it says Qingyi's stun damage multiplier is effective with any type of attack, allowing her to coordinate perfectly with most agents. She becomes even more powerful when fighting alongside a teammate with the attack specialty, which provides a damage bonus against stunned enemies. That is not what her additional ability does. That's wrong. This is not correct. This last sentence is wrong. They didn't even know what she did. She's that complicated. Who is Qingyi? Qingyi is an electric stun character. She applies most of her day's value through normal attacks. So effectively what her gameplay looks like is she's an out of stun on-field DPS character, instead of a more off-field present character like Von Lyacon. Qingyi loves field time. She wants it real bad, and she rewards you for giving it to her. As she attacks enemies with her special attack, their stun damage multiplier ramps up from her subjugation in the Flash Connect state. Now, what is subjugation? What is the Flash Connect state? Before we talk about the Flash Connect state, we need to talk about Flash Connect voltage. What is Flash Connect voltage? Flash Connect voltage is the battery bar under her HP at the top of the screen. As she does electric damage from any of her attacks, she accumulates Flash Connect voltage. How much Flash Connect voltage does she accumulate per attack, and is it different for each attack? I have no idea. Sorry, that information's not available. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna try to do more Zenless content. More Genshin content is coming. Did you know most of you watching are not currently subscribed? You should subscribe. When Qingyi's Flash Connect voltage is greater than 75%, she can enter the Flash Connect state by holding the basic attack button, which is the mouse button or the attack button. In the Flash Connect state, her basic attack becomes the Enchanted Moonlit Blossom. From here on out, instead of saying Enchanted Moonlit Blossom, we're calling it EMB. It's like EMP, but with a B because it's based. So when she has over 75% Flash Connect voltage, which she accumulates by doing attacks, she can use her EMB. EMB does an additional 1% damage and additional 0.5% days for each voltage over 75%. So at max, this attack will have an extra 25 damage bonus and an extra 12.5% days buildup. The primary thing here is the extra days buildup. The damage percent does not affect days buildup. It just makes her do more damage. EMB, or Enchanted Moonlit Blossom, voice crack, Pog, does 5 instances of a rush attack. This is the one where she kind of does this to people with her big stick. That hits 5 times. Each time that hits, the final hit applies more subjugation. All of the EMB hits deal more damage and apply more days than her normal attacks, because from not just the skill values, but also the bonus from her Flash Connect. As she is doing rush attacks, if you release the button early, she will skip to the final hit. There is a tech with this final hit. If you release the button as she is about to get hit, so the yellow flash indicator from enemies, Qingyi, or red flash indicator actually, Qingyi will use the final hit of her EMB as a dodge counter, or as a parry, basically, kind of like Ben. So she will execute the final hit early if you release, And if you release early, she can use the hit as a dodge counter. This is useful for avoiding damage. It's also useful for her subjugation. Subjugation is the ability of her core talent, or her core passive. As she attacks enemies with EMB, she applies subjugation onto enemies. Each stack of subjugation increases the stun damage multiplier that enemies have when they are stunned. This resets every time the enemy gets up or recovers from stun. So you will technically want to stack it each time. It stacks up to 20 times, except that does not mean 20 hits. The way that the hit rules, or the way that subjugation application works, is the final hit of EMB is always +5 by default. Each rush attack that hits adds 1. So the maximum you can apply per EMB is 10 out of 20. We'll get to it. It's more complicated. But if you use the EMB final hit as a dodge counter, so you release early as you're about to be attacked, it will always apply 10, so it will always apply the maximum. If the enemy is not a boss, all subjugation values are multiplied by 2. So actually, I lied when I said it's 10, it's 20 if the enemy is not a boss. So if it's a normal enemy or an elite enemy, it's like a Thanatos or a Dullahan or any random mass enemy. An example of a boss would be the giant robot at the end of current Shiyu Critical Zone 7 is a boss. So she would be applying the 1x subjugation value instead of the 2x. So as long as Qingyi executes her entire combo or does a dodge counter against most enemies in the game, they are taking the full increased stun damage multiplier off the single combo, which is good because she's also pretty likely to stun enemies with just that combo. Whew. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because it's very complicated. Something I brushed over earlier, her flash connect voltage cannot be generated by EMB attacks. It has to be non-EMB attacks. So her normal attacks, her assist follow-up, her dodge counter, these are ways you generate EMB, and her EX special. The primary ones will be her special and her assist follow-up. Qingyi also has an additional ability. What is Qingyi's additional ability? It is activated whenever there is an attack agent or a cop in the squad. What do I mean by a cop? I mean Seth, Jane, Ziyuan. Ziyuan would already trigger it because she's an attack character, but if Ziyuan wasn't, it would be triggered by that. Okay, the additional ability is her days from basic attacks is increased by 20%. Also, Qingyi gains 6 attack for each point of impact over 120 up to 600. So as long as your Qingyi is fully built, you'll be getting 600 attack when her additional ability is active, and her additional ability will essentially always be active. What is Qingyi's skill priority? It's basic, and then you probably want to level everything else besides chain because it all contributes to days buildup. TLDR, max basic first, but level everything. The one you could probably sleep the most on is dodge, but I'm not sure about that. Cool. We got through all of Qingyi's mechanics. Now that we've explained all of Qingyi's mechanics, we get to talk about her full rotation. So essentially it just looks like use her EX special when it's available, spam her basic attacks, use assist follow-ups, and when her flash voltage is available, use it. Use it to stun enemies as long as you use the full combo or you use the cancel. You are applying full subjugation, which greatly increases your damage. Qingyi will spend a vast majority of her gameplay on field before enemies are stunned, building up days against enemies to allow more powerful agents to capitalize on the stun damage state. Because her flash voltage needs to be charged, Qingyi is not necessarily a passive stun character like Von Lyacon. You need to be proactive with attacking with Qingyi and using her. One of the ways you can do this is many of Qingyi's attacks can actually be swap canceled, such as her EX special and her normal attacks. This is a great way to build up voltage while still using other characters instead of just spending all of your time on Qingyi. After stun, Bencher. What do you want me to tell you? Their chain attack probably does damage. You don't have to use it, whatever. W engines. Her signature W engine is the Ice Jade Teapot. As a limited 5-star weapon, it has the higher base than the standard banner weapons. It gives 18% impact. What this weapon's passive does is as you hit enemies with basic attacks, you gain impact percent, or F, or final impact percent. So this is a multiplicative value. It stacks up to 30 times, 0.7 each stack, so it's up to 21% total. This effect has an 8-second duration. All of the stacks have an independent duration. When the wearer possesses 15 or more terrific, they're great. That was a terrible Tony the Tiger impression. He doesn't even say terrific. My mind went tiger. He says terrific. No, he says they're great. What am I doing? The voices. Okay, so this is Qingyi's best in slot W engine. It gives the most impact of any of the dub engines. It gives Qingyi and the entire squad 20 damage percent. The 15 stack conditional has some current unknowns. It is unknown if the damage percent effect gets triggered from off field, since it has a 10% duration, but each stack has an 8-second duration. So if it can apply off field, you'll have significantly better uptime from it. It's also unknown if this damage percent effect can only be activated once every 10 seconds. If it is any stack over 15 that refreshes the duration, that also changes things and makes the duration significantly longer. As long as one of those unknowns is correct, this weapon is incredible as a generalist piece of gearing. Primarily because it gives the 20 damage percent to the squad. Technically, there are weapons that give similar amounts of impact or days buildup, such as the Restrained or the Hellfire Gears or even the Steam Engine. Let's quickly go over some of those weapons. We're talking about the Restrained. The Restrained is the Von Lyacon weapon. It does not give a team buff in the hands of Qingyi. This W engine does not stack super great because Qingyi's normal attacks are multi-hits. The way the Restrained works is each basic attack increases the damage and the days buildup of the next basic attack. TLDR, this weapon does give similar days buildup to the Teapot from Qingyi's basic attacks, but you have to be careful because it requires stacking, and the stacking will be inconsistent with Qingyi. Hellfire Gears gives 10% impact after you use your EX special for 10 seconds. This can stack twice. You're not necessarily going to be getting 20% final impact from this, but even 10% final impact is great. It also has 0.6% regen rate increase, which makes Hellfire Gears a very attractive option from its high base and its energy regen rate. Speaking of energy regen rate, we get to talk about the Steam Oven. The Steam Oven at R5 gives 3.2% final impact for each 10 energy consumed up to 80, and it gives 50% energy regen. The Steam Engine should be comparable to the Teapot on Qingyi strictly for days buildup. Because Qingyi's EX special attack has a hold option that consumes 80 energy, which synergizes perfectly with the Steam Oven passive, and the energy regen effect should give her pretty decent uptime on this effect, which makes the Steam Oven very good and pretty directly comparable days-wise to the Teapot. The real edge that the Teapot has is it gives 20 damage percent to the team. Drive discs. Now, something I need to talk about regarding stun and days buildup. Days is technically very threshold based, and it is hard to objectively ascribe value to the buildup because it's very content dependent. That being said, if you want to get extra days from Qingyi, specifically her rush and her EMB final hit, 4-piece Shockstar Disco is the set you will want to use. If you feel like the days buildup from the 4-piece set is unnecessary, you can use basically any other set, such as Woodpecker, Electro, or the Thunder Metal, the Electro set, because Qingyi is an electric character, she will be applying electric and shock. But I would generally recommend Shockstar Disco because of the days effect. But yes, you may see you may not see performance differences, or you may see other sets outperform just because of how threshold-based days is. That being said, the 2-piece for Shockstar Disco is 6% impact. It should always be used on Qingyi no matter what. This is Qingyi's 2-piece best in slot. It's her 4-piece best in slot. The 4-piece bonus applies additional days from basic attacks, which is what EMB is. But yes, other sets can be better for Qingyi's personal damage, which may be more important than her days buildup depending on your clear. TBD. Very, very TBD, subject to change, it depends. Also gonna come up in conversation when we talk about her Mindscape Cinema. Main stats on her: slot 4, crit rate or attack; slot 5, electric, attack or pen; slot 6, impact all day, baby! Impact, impact, impact. We're a stun character, we're building impact. Genshin Impact? Speaking of third impact, a lot of Qingyi's Mindscape Cinema are difficult to fully evaluate numerically because of how threshold-based days and stun are, but I can tell you about what they do. Her first one always, when Qingyi enters the battle, her Flash Connect voltage will be maxed, and she will generate 30% more Flash Connect voltage than she does at C0. When Qingyi attacks the full enemy, or attacks the enemy with full Flash Connect voltage, the final EMB hit will decrease the enemy's defense by 15% for 15 seconds. Additionally, Qingyi's crit rate against that enemy is increased by 20%. The crit rate from this is not as relevant unless your Qingyi is not stunning enemies by the time the final hit of the EMB hit lands, in which case you may have a small problem or you're fighting a very difficult boss. So the crit rate increase from this is a little inconsequential, but the 15% def reduction, it's great. Also, starting every battle with full Flash Connect voltage helps lean into the threshold based thing, because theoretically you could instantly stun some enemies with it. Sounds good. Awesome. All right. Qingyi's second Mindscape Cinema increases the stun damage multiplier from her core passive. This is the subjugation value by 33%. So at max, it is 60%, 33% more would be 80%. When Qingyi's stun multiplier is fully stacked, so when her subjugation stacks are at their max, her days increases by 15%. So she is applying 15% more stun per hit. This also factors into what I was saying earlier about C1 being where her crit rate increase may not be great, but increasing days by 15% after subjugation is fully stacked, awesome for ensuring that the enemies are stunned when they are stunned. And the stun damage multiplier going from 60 to 80 is awesome. Level 3 is +2 all skills. Level 5 is also +2 all skills. Just get that out of the way. Number 4, when Qingyi enters and exits the Flash Connect state, she gains a shield and regenerates 5 energy. Both of these effects are on a 10-second cooldown. C6 is Qingyi gains 100% crit damage on her EMB hits, and EMB reduces enemy resistance to all attributes by 20% for 15 seconds. So it's just another buff. It's a personal damage buff from the crit rate, and it is a team buff from the attribute shred. Pretty solid. That being said, I think the standout constellations for Qingyi are 1 and 2. 1 is 15% def shred, and 2 is extra stun multiplier bonus. Not talking about the additional crit rate and the additional days buildup from the attacks, as well as the fully charged Flash Connect voltage. Worth mentioning, Qingyi is the first ever limited stun character, and she takes a very on-field role. It may not be super advisable to pull her constellations in general, but she is pretty tied, or a very reliable partner for Ziyuan, who is also very popular, or who is literally just available on banner. Hey, go watch my video. So they may not be terrible to pick up, especially if you play a lot of Ziyuan. Which brings us to teams. Hey yo, remember what I was saying about Ziyuan? Qingyi is the best in slot stun character on Ziyuan teams by a margin of about 40%. Yeah, it's a lot. Qingyi is really good for Ziyuan. I would consider pulling Qingyi just to play her with Ziyuan. But if you do not have Ziyuan, does not mean that there's no reason to pull Qingyi. Qingyi's additional ability, which gives her increased personal damage and increased days build up from basic attacks, is triggered by any attack character, meaning you can play any attack character with Qingyi. The one that I've kind of chosen to highlight is Anton, because Anton appreciates that Qingyi can take field time, so Anton can generate energy. And Anton appreciates that Qingyi is an electric character, so she's contributing to the shock anomaly buildup. So that's awesome. Awesome stuff. So yeah, any attack character is a good pair with Qingyi. Anton, Corrin, I guess you could say Billy even. Hey, yo, shout out Billy and Corrin for being on that banner. Those are ways that you can play Qingyi. She is essentially an out-of-stun DPS character, which is very similar to how we play Ellen, except Ellen is also an in-stun DPS character and Qingyi is not. I think Qingyi is going to be a very popular character. It may not be wrong for Qingyi to be seen as the Silver Wolf or the Venti of Zenless Zone Zero because of how I'm just gonna mention the exact wording again. Daze and stun in general are very threshold based. A good example of that is right now on current Shiyu 7 critical. People are seeing comparable or better clears, replacing their stun character on a GUN team with Lucy because of the increased daze from the modifier on current Shiyu. So that's a great example of the stun character not exactly adding enough damage. That being said, Qingyi is a buffer because she increases the stun damage multiplier, much like Von Lycon. Von Lycon is great with Ellen always because he increases the stun damage multiplier and he decreases enemy resistance to ice by 25%. That is why Von Lycon will arguably always be good for ice teams, and that's why Qingyi will arguably always have a place. But it is situational because to do that, Qingyi needs field time. She could be seen as slow, and she could be seen as unnecessary. But on paper, Qingyi looks like a very good character for right now, given the current cast, specifically Ziyuan, and Corrin and Anton. That is my review on Qingyi. Pretty solid. She is the first limited stun character. If you don't have Von Lycon, or if you did pick up Ziyuan, I would strongly recommend getting Qingyi right now.